My topic that has been given to me by the organizers, to whom I am very thankful, is humanistic psychology and how humanism and positive psychology are in number of ways similar and to an extent different. Now, when we talk about humanistic psychology, the thing that comes to our mind is there are two people who are associated with it. One is Abraham Maslow and the other is Carl Rogers. And positive psychology is highly related to this humanistic psychology that was propounded by these two great expert psychologists. Let us see how it had happened and how it had proceeded. Positive psychology is a relatively newer branch of psychology and is a science of positive aspects of human life such as happiness, well-being and flourishing. It is a scientific study of optimal human functioning according to Seligman that aims to discover and promote the factors that allow individuals and communities to thrive. It focuses on human prospering, while many other branches of psychology focus on dysfunction, abnormal behavior, and mental illness and so on and so forth. Positive psychology centers on helping people become happier. It aims to identify and enhance the human strength and virtues that make life worth living and allow individuals and communities to thrive. These aims are ingrained in a way in humanistic psychology. However, humanistic psychology is accused of, positive psychology is accused of not giving enough credit to humanistic psychology. We all know that during the first half of the 20th century, there were two main schools of thought. One was behaviorism and the other was psychoanalysis. These were dominating the field of psychology. Both the schools of thought did not give much importance to studying values or intentions and meaning in experience or meaning in existence. While the former was mechanistic, that is the behavioristic was mechanistic, the latter, that is the psychoanalysis, was reductionistic and fatalistic. These two forces were counteracted by humanistic psychology, which is considered the third force that began formally in the 1950s in Europe and the United States. One of its proponents, Abraham Maslow, believed that humanistic psychology should be based on the study of healthy, creative individuals, and he attempted to investigate empirically the lives and patterns of people who were considered to be self-actualized persons. Humanistic psychology is so named due to its core belief in the basic goodness present in humans and respect for humanity. The here and now is the emphasis in them. That approach looked at everything as is, where is, and made humans more dignified and capable of taking decisions and also make use of their full potential. Thus, humanistic psychology was positive in its approach. And the term positive psychology itself first appeared in the last chapter of Maslow's book, Motivation and Personality, the title of which was Towards a Positive Psychology. In this chapter, Maslow pointed out that psychology never bothered much about human potential or the virtues or achievable aspirations of humans because its focus had been more on knowing man's shortcoming, his illnesses and his sins. This has been the main approach of psychology and it has been accused of emphasizing on the negative aspects. Maslow developed a hierarchical theory of human motivation which asserted that when certain basic needs are provided for, higher motives towards self-actualization emerge. The other humanistic psychologist, Carl Rogers, about whom I told you in the beginning, introduced person-centered therapy. This believed that intrinsic tendencies towards self-actualization can be expressed in a therapeutic relationship in which the therapist offers personal congruence, unconditional positive regard, and accurate empathic understanding. Thus, Maslow and Rogers embraced self-actualization as an empirical principle and an ethical idea. Their vision of human nature was intrinsically good, became a major theme of the human potential movement. The impact of humanistic psychology to positive psychology can be understood in terms of three major areas. One is a new set of values for approaching and understanding human nature. Second, an expanded horizon of methods of inquiry in the study of human behavior. And third, a broader range of more effective methods in the professional practice of psychotherapy. Humanistic psychology is guided by a conviction that intentionality and ethical values are strong psychological forces among the basic determinants of human behavior. The humanistic emphasis on individual freedom has to be matched by a recognition of the person's interdependence and responsibilities to one another. That means he gave a lot of importance even to other human beings and the environment in which the human beings live, to the society and as well as to the culture. However, the environment in which the individual lives has certain negative aspects which impact on the human beings. Despite this negative aspect, humanistic psychology believes that the individual being independent, his dignity and worth and his capacity to develop personal competence and self-respect have to be recognized and given importance by the society. This value orientation of humanistic psychologists has led to the development of therapies to facilitate personal and interpersonal skills. As we look at humanistic psychology today, it is but necessary to go back to 1950s and 60s when Rogers introduced person-centered psychotherapy. In the 70s and 80s, the ideas and values of humanistic psychology spread into many areas of society. In the decades to follow, humanistic psychologists transformed the field of psychotherapy by breaking down the societal stigmas attached to therapy, thereby popularizing the usage of humanistic approaches in healing. The methodologies, interestingly, involve narrative, imaginal, and somatic approaches, which were quite in line with positive psychology. The practice of humanistic psychology ranged from personal coaching and organizational consulting through creative art therapy. Positive experiences were found to be fostered by developing a better vocabulary for positive affects, honing skills in empathy, and by bringing somatic awareness skills into the therapy process. Happiness, according to even humanistic psychology, is a state of subjective well-being. It involves a positive way of thinking and acting, and it is also body-based phenomenology, which becomes a valuable resource for positive psychology today. Humanistic therapists practice in widely different ways, focusing on the reality of the client, which is again positively oriented, client's own experience, and of the experiential reality created by the interaction of the therapist's reality and the client's reality. Now let us take up positive psychology and see what that is all about. It has three operating levels. One is what we call as the subjective level, the second is the individual level, and the third is the group level. These three levels are also considered as the three pillars of positive psychology. The subjective level includes the study of positive experiences such as joy, well-being, satisfaction, contentment, and so on. The second level aims to identify the constituents of the good life and emphasizes the study of human strengths and virtues, future-mindedness, capacity for love, etc. And the third, that is the community level emphasis, emphasizes the civic virtues, social responsibilities, nurturance, altruism, and so on. All these, in a way, are factors that contribute to the development of citizenship and communities as a whole. These three pillars point toward a fully functioning human, which humanistic psychologists emphasize. Positive psychology focuses on the study of character strengths and virtues of humans, and it uses Maslow's self-actualized individuals as a means to identify the same. The fully functioning person has qualities of being non-defensive, open to experience, trusting one's own bodily responses to the world, and it recognizes the consequences of the freedom of the individual. He is being creative, which Dr. Sharma was pointing out, and constructive and living a full, rich life. Also, as we look at positive psychology, it is seen that being engaged in and immersed in one's projects and finding meaning in one's life are relatively much better at predicting well-being. In other words, the person needs to be engaged to find meaning in his very existence and find pleasure through fulfillment of that meaning and engagement in order to live a full life. In this, we can see how positive psychology has adopted the humanistic approach in its entire thinking. Humanistic psychology and positive psychology thus share a common vision of good life grounded in self-actualization and what is called eudaimonic well-being, happiness well-being. However, in terms of epistemology and methodology, humanistic psychology differs from positive psychology, and in these two perhaps are the weaker aspects of humanistic psychology. Humanistic psychology centers around the holistic development of a person, And it has three main components. They are self-actualization, self-fulfillment, and self-realization. At the same time, there are certain important principles that humanistic psychology subscribes to. That is, one is human beings cannot be reduced to components. Human consciousness includes the awareness of oneself. Humans have choices and responsibilities. These are the three important principles of it. When we consider these principles in terms of positive psychology, one finds that a lot of these principles are ingrained into positive psychology system. Positive psychology focuses on the potentials of humans. It is not targeted at fixing up any problem, but it is focused on researching those aspects that make life worth living. Positive psychology is not concerned with how to transform, but how to make a person live a life more positive and more fulfilling. This is also the core feature of humanistic psychology, in which the person is helped to determine for himself, deliberate consciously, and develop holistically self-actualizing and self-realizing. There is a holistic approach in positive psychology akin to that of humanistic psychology. In fact, humanistic psychology insists upon self-right to be, self's right to grow, and self-right to develop into what one potentially is. This person-centered approach to nurturing and growth represents a new and bold development. Humanistic psychology maintains a faith that each individual is somehow attuned to the larger principle of life. A person can tap this reservoir of personal knowledge as a basis for action. On the same lines, positive psychology believes that positive emotions broaden the individual's thought-action repertoire. Positive affective experiences have a long-lasting effect on the individual personal growth and development. It broadens humans' attention and thinking, leading to greater variety of thoughts, and it undoes all the negative emotions. And if we combine humanistic psychology and positive psychology together, psychology in some, maybe some decades later, may witness the fourth force, which is in psychology, which is going to be very powerful and very dominating and important. A humanistically informed positive psychology would acknowledge the capacities of depression or anger or fear to distort, but it would also recognize their capacities to clarify, liberate, and sensitize. This is a very important point to remember, because we always think of how to saturate a human being or how to get him asymptomatic and so on. But here we also recognize that clarify, liberation, sensitizing are very important. In short, a humanistically informed positive psychology would foster an inquiry of being. Now, humanistic psychology stresses many of the same premises as positive psychology does, that is, will, responsibility, and positive emotion. To conclude, humanistic psychology and positive psychology have much in common. Unlike earlier approaches which focused on illnesses, weaknesses, and deficiencies, both humanistic and positive psychology stress the positive aspects of human personality. But positive psychology parts company with the humanistic when it emphasizes the future potential rather than here and now, paying attention more to achieving potentials than solving present difficulties. It does not pay as much attention to current problems, weaknesses, and obstacles, because its core belief is that with the progress toward positive goals, the weaknesses and shortcomings would be sloughed off and will cease to be the impediments they were in the past or even in the present. One does not have to wait for the fulfillment of one level of needs before striving for a higher level, like Maslow said. Rather, the striving for higher levels of fulfillment may themselves overcome any lack at earlier levels. Finally, while humanistic psychology is largely based on Western and European traditions and theories, positive psychology is more eclectic in drawing from both Western and Oriental traditions. Thank you.